The 3:30 p.m. meeting of the Bakersfield City Council is now in session.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to call to order the 3:30 regular City Council meeting of January 21st, 2026. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Go.
Here.
Councilmember Kaur.
Here.
Councilmember Arias. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Weir. Councilmember Smith.
I am here.
Councilmember Coman.
Here.
And Councilmember Bashir Tosh.
Here.
Thank you. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for being here. In keeping with the Council's resolution, public statements are received at different times depending on the item. I'll call on the City Clerk to call for public statements at the appropriate time. If you wish to make a public statement, please fill out a public speaker card and place it in the tray next to the speaker podium. We ask that you mark whether you're here to speak on an item listed on today's agenda or in a matter not on the agenda. Speakers who do not identify a specific agenda item will be presumed speakers for the non-agenda public statements. If you're here to speak on an item not listed on the meeting agenda, you'll be called first to speak. Statements are given a 2-minute time limit per speaker, 20 minutes total for all non-agenda item public statements. If you're here to speak on an item listed on the agenda, I'll call for you at the appropriate time. If public statements become disruptive and I have to clear the chambers to regain order of the meeting, you'll be called in one at a time to provide your public statement when the item is called. Everyone in attendance is expected to adhere to the rules of decorum established by resolution of the City Council. Failure to abide by the city's rules of decorum, including any disruptive behavior that interferes with our ability to have an orderly and efficient meeting, prevents the City Council from conducting the business of the city. Consider this a first warning to everyone in attendance that conduct that disrupts this meeting may result in expulsion and or the chambers being cleared. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers regarding items not listed on the agenda?
Mayor Go, we've received one speaker card regarding items not listed on today's agenda. The speaker is Michael Turnipseed.
Welcome.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, you see why I come at 3:30. There's no waiting line. Hopefully you've got a handout here that we put together. It's made up of 2 charts that I'm going to talk about and our plan that we'd like you to consider before February. So next month, your council will be voting on a solution to your sewer dilemma. With rate increases starting July 1, your council has 6 scenarios in which to choose. We're going to give you another one today. Please, before you make the 7th option, current tax option is prudent, sustainable, and fiscally responsible. Our proposals for 10 years is a 40-60 pay-as-you-go debt split. There are many misconceptions floating around concerning the solutions to this dilemma. The first chart shows that we put here, page 1, is the 60-40 pay-as-you-go, but basically it's 10% increases for the first 7 years, 4% for the next 3, $500 million bonding, which will eventually add up to be about $300 million a year. I mean, 300 million. It'll be $30 for each rate, $300 for each rate person. So you say, oh, well, $300 is a lot. Well, you're getting $500 million for $25 a month. That's the way you have to look at it. Everybody lives by budgets or month to month, so don't scare them with big annual numbers. Let's get down to what it's going to affect their pay periods and what it's really going to be and what the decisions they're going to have to make. And the second chart is a little different because we put in $600 million bonding because we think it's going to be somewhere between the two. And attachment 3 is our layout of a plan. We have miles per repair, we have pumps, we have deadline, we have laid out schedule for the next 10 years that we'd like you to consider. And in your deliberations, the current rate is $274, which is only $22 a month. It's less than a cell phone. And so if you double it, it's probably going to be the cost of your cell phone. Over the 7 years, it will double to $548. So we think that's not a bad number, but over a 7-year period, but that is prudent. For people on lower incomes, they can certainly budget for that. Our plan actually has annual increases when you look at and break it down per month at the 10%, is like $3 a month. I mean, we have to look at how we are looking at these things, and give me 2 more minutes and 2 more seconds. When considering your next 10-year sewer plan, you need to look at all plans out there and ask for second opinions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turnipseed. Madam Clerk, do we have any other speakers?
Mayor Go, that was the only speaker card we received this evening for non-agenda items, and we have not received any speaker cards for agenda items.
Thank you. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Turnipseed, thank you so much for providing some solutions. You know, we often hear a lot of the concerns and complaints from community members and various folks, and it's refreshing when we hear actual solutions and people thinking about how we can tackle this problem, because this is a challenge we all face collectively. Mr. Clegg, I just wanted to ask if I know that we've asked staff to bring back additional proposals and considerations and options for us. Has staff seen this report? Have we evaluated it? And have we sat down with Mr. Turnipseed and his team to discuss this in detail?
Yeah, I think, thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. We received from Kern Tax a 10, 20, and 30-year plan for infrastructure reinvestment that we have reviewed as staff. Mr. Turnipseed had shared this particular graph with me either late last week or early this week, and so we're looking at how we present the information, which we have all the same data. It's not packaged up this exact same way, but we're looking at how we have packaged it up to see how that compares with this, and if we can present it in a similar format that's kind of easy for the community to see how operations and maintenance is separate from capital improvements, and what the rates will be over time. And then last week we actually met with members of Kern Tax Board and Mr. Turnipseed to walk through our cost of service analysis, walk through our CIP planning process, and the framework that we're approaching. And I think there's a lot of similarity between the key principles in some of the ideas that they brought forward and in the plans that we've had. And we'll continue to answer questions and show where there is alignment, but also tease out some of the reasons that, based on some like council feedback, that we've approached our rate setting that is not maybe quite as bond heavy as just one example. But yes, we've looked at several of the materials that they've shared with us. We're looking at this newer graph, which I think is pretty much the same information, just in a different format and easier for us to digest. And we've made a commitment to continue to share our analysis and proposals as we lead up to a council report and direction on this next month.
Okay, great. And one other comment. I thought I heard incremental rate increase over 7 years. It's my understanding that through Prop 218, this council has authority to increase rates incrementally in the period of no more than 5 years before we have to reevaluate the rate structure. And so I just wanted to add that caveat. I do not think, though, that would preclude us from having a model that goes beyond that 5 years. We can then, in 5 years' time, the council can then reevaluate those additional rates in year 6 and 7.
So that's accurate, council member, and we have two different scenarios that we've looked at, one that is about a 7-year and one that's actually a 10-year. And of course, you can only approve those first 5 years, but it's reasonable to still make an assumption about what would still be ahead in the second 5 years of a 10-year, especially if that's communicated now, today, that, down the road, we're still going to have to come back and take another look at it. And I would also, we're getting a little into the topic for next month, but I would also argue there is value in, making a reassessment at the 5-year mark, because we'll know a lot more about the specifics that we've evaluated for Plant 2. And as we get, a better sense of what our revenues, truly are, all of this is forecasted, but we'll know a lot more in 5 years. I think that the one thing we can't do is wait 5 years to make any changes, because we need to start saving up both to meet our current obligations because we're not collecting enough just for operations and maintenance, our ongoing capital improvements, and then start putting money in the bank for those big improvements we know are going to come. But I think we can reevaluate the particular amount for that second 5 years when we get closer to the end of the first 5 years.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much for that. And thank you again, Mr. Turnipseed.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Reports item 3A, Clean City Initiative and Community Vitality Programs update.
Thank you, Mr. Clegg.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We'll make a few introductory comments, and then we'll turn time over to other team members to continue through with the slides. As that slide deck is pulled up, just want to frame some of the history that when we started the Clean Cities Initiative just coming out of the pandemic, it was a number of years ago, and we've provided some intermittent updates along the way, thank you. We've provided some intermittent updates along the way, but it's actually been some time since we gave a more comprehensive report to your council about the Clean Cities Initiative. And then while Community Vitality is a separate initiative, they have a lot of crossover, and there's good reason to be well aligned and coordinated, so we wanted to provide an update on both of those items for you today. And so here is some of that background that, it was recognized during the pandemic and that there was challenges around litter and debris in the community well beyond what might be, a typical expectation. And we knew that we needed to attack this from multiple different angles. A big part of that is community education and community awareness that we all should take better care of our community. But also we wanted to jumpstart that work with Public Safety Vital Services tax funding. And later we received significant revenues from a fee increase at the landfill from the county to get at illegal dumping, litter and debris throughout the city in a variety of different ways. And so we're going to walk through many of those examples, but just give a overview there. In addition to litter cleanup crews throughout town, we also implemented those bulky waste drop-off events. They've been a very big success. Lots of folks come and use those. We're coordinating more closely how we're addressing, debris that's left behind by encampments or others who've maybe just left a mess. We do have limited staff. It's one of the areas we're still trying to grow into more, but we've started getting at illegal dumping sites, some of our most chronic hotspots. And then again, that education component is, I think, really critical to a sustainable path on this topic. And then from some referrals from council, we also have had a pilot related to how we manage enclosures and dumpsters. On the community vitality side, it was somewhat similar, but a few years later, we just recognized that our level of coordination amongst city services and our urgency amongst staff for addressing encampments just wasn't meeting really the critical mass of quality of life issues that we needed to address at the time. And that's not to say that we've perfectly addressed that today either. We've recognized that because of our efforts to enhance our capacity to enforce and clean up those encampments, we've now recognized that there's an accountability challenge in the criminal justice system, and that'll be our next topic around jail beds. But in the meantime, we prioritized doing the work of coordinating city services around encampments differently. We actually created a separate cross-functional team, prioritized this as a special project, and said we have to do this differently to maximize our resources and respond more quickly and more efficiently across the city. And so we'll walk through again some of the examples of what that looked like, but we put together essentially our call center, our triage center that helps to assign out these resources, the many resources that we had created for this. We've got dedicated teams of police and code enforcement. We've got a co-response model that we'll talk about to get at encampment resolution. And then also trying to look at the individual level. How do we help those individuals get the services that they need, or in some instances, the accountability that they need as well. Right, at this point, I will turn it over to Ms. Jamie Ochterberg to walk through a little bit more.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Like Mr. Clegg mentioned, initially we did set out to prepare an update focused on the Clean City Initiative, but we realized really quickly as we were pulling this information together that the collaborative and overlapping nature of these teams warranted a tandem update. And so here we are. The Clean City Initiative and Community Vitality are interconnected, not only with one another, but with other city departments, field teams, and contracted service providers. The efforts are intentionally designed to work together to address shared community challenges. Core city services include solid waste and water under the Clean City Initiative, animal control, arson, and impact under the Community Vitality Unit, and code enforcement, rapid response, and park rangers supporting both programs. Together, these coordinated efforts support encampment cleanup and resolution, enhanced litter and chronic illegal dumping abatement, outreach, case management, and housing placements, quality of life response, and education programs and engagement opportunities for residents and businesses alike. The work would not be possible without the support of our contracted community partners. They provide critical, specialized services that complement our city operations. With Flood Ministries, Mercy House, and Kern Behavioral Health supporting street outreach, behavioral health services, and connections to shelter and housing. Garden Pathways and Psychiatric Wellness Center providing intensive case management services to our chronically homeless and justice-impacted individuals. City Guard and Transwest delivering private security services, and Jack Davenport Sweeping Services, the Open Door Network, and Valley Pressure Pros supporting waste and bio-waste removal downtown and throughout the city. Rather than functioning independently, these services are aligned to provide a more comprehensive and responsive approach to cleanliness, safety, and community well-being, maintain a consistent presence in the field, and ensure that individuals and neighborhoods are connected to appropriate services and resources while public spaces are restored and maintained. Taken together, these efforts truly do reflect the city's commitment to addressing community challenges in a coordinated, thoughtful, and responsive way. And with that overview, I'll turn it over to Solid Waste Director James Leonard.
Good afternoon, Council, Mayor Go, Council members. I'm going to talk a little bit about solid waste and its involvement in CCI and how that intertwines and collaborates with all the other divisions here. I did want to touch on the funding a little bit, as this first started off with the public safety vital measure tax measures. It has now moved over to, my portion of it has moved over to Kern County Illegal Dumping Fund money that he talked about with the landfill tax and solid waste enterprise funds. So we're transitioning from there to more solid waste funds to get this taken care of. So I want to go over some of the key accomplishments. Since 2021, CCI teams have collected over 11 million pounds of waste. A lot of waste out there, a lot of litter. We provide cleaning services to the entire community, but we have a heavy focus downtown, Old Town Kern, because these are the areas that are really heavily impacted by homeless issue waste. From there, also in April 21, as Christian talked about, we started these monthly pop-up bulky item drop-off events. These give an opportunity to residents to drop off items that don't fit in their garbage cans and too far to go to the landfill, they can go to these spots around town. So this will also deter the thinking of, I don't want to go that far, I just want to go dump this on the road. So it's been very successful, and I'll go into more detail on that in the later slides. CCI teams are continuing to have a steady presence out there so that they can also engage with residents and community members and businesses and the homeless out there. So they're doing their part. We're trying to do our part. This is a collaborative effort for the entire city and contractors to get this city cleaned up. Some special services Christian touched on just a little bit. Dumpster security program. This was a pilot based off a council member's referral. And this was initially focused on the ECD areas when it first initially started. And in that, we had 62 commercial businesses who participated. And within those 62, we had about 70 bins in there. And that cost was about $37,000, $38,000. We had a lot of feedback. The business owners that are doing it really like it. They enjoy it. It keeps the homeless from getting into it, spreading that debris, causing a mess, and then re-efforts to send teams back out there to get it cleaned up. So one of the persons we had on there was the manager from the roller rink. He provided a quote for us. You guys can read that. But they enjoy it. They really like what it's doing for their business. It's keeping a more professional appearance to their business, which brings in more business, right? I'm going to slide over to water department. I'm going to give a little touch up on what they did for their theft that's been going on for their fencing. There's a lot of basins around Bakersfield. There's 48 sumps, canal barriers, entrance gates, well sites, and there's been a lot of theft of the fencing. So there's a couple staff members in water that came up with an idea of tagging fences. And this has been very positive effect for them. They've been able to recover over $800,000 worth of material and stop the theft. Within the last 6 months, they've only had 2, and they've got to recover that. I can't speak on the arrest. I think there was an arrest too, but that tagging of it has really worked out for them in the city. Last thing I want to touch on is community support. So back to the bulky item drop-off events. I want to touch a little bit more on that. As I said, we had about 14,000 residents that participated in that since we started this. We've collected over 2,000 million pounds of waste, whether it's recycling, wood, metal, plastics, cardboard. We take it to the proper disposing areas or proper processing areas so it doesn't wind out on the street. We've collected another 16,000 items of mattresses, waste tires, e-waste, and things like that. And of course, our efforts and other events that we do outside of that we support Bakersfield Recycling Day, these community events where we have more people come out and participate in these events. Bakersfield Recycling Day, Make a Difference Day, and then of course we kind of culminate that with the city's own Great American Cleanup. So all of these community efforts really ties into what we really want to see Bakersfield become, a cleaner community. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Lieutenant Anderberg.
Good afternoon. I apologize. My voice is a little off today. So I'm here to talk about community vitality and some of the accomplishments that we've had over the past 2 years since it's come to fruition. In January 2024, the Bakersfield Police Department and Development Services piloted a co-response model. Basically, that's a police officer and a code enforcement officer riding together, and they would go out and they would handle encampment issues throughout the city of Bakersfield. Also, in conjunction with that, there was also a rapid response team that was assigned to these teams, and what this allowed us to do was it made us capable of handling encampments very quickly. So a call for service would come in, we would have law enforcement there to enforce any criminal violations, as well as a code enforcement officer to help us identify any private property issues and also seize any property from people that were living in an encampment. We also had that very key component of the rapid response team that was there to help us with cleanups right away, so we didn't have to leave items out for days and days. So this collaboration helps streamline a lot of our efforts. The call center went live officially in May of 2025, and it now handles about 15 to 18% of all homeless-related and quality of life calls for service. Through Community Vitality, we've also improved our trespass enforcement authorization form process. That process alone it involves community members who are able to call in and provide authorization for a police officer to enforce trespassing violations without having to be present. That allows officers to quickly handle trespassing violations without having to call somebody in the middle of the night to come to their business and place somebody under a private person's arrest. We've streamlined that process, and since improving that, we've doubled the amount of trespass enforcement authorization forms. That's also helped build a very strong relationship with a lot of our community members here. They're more bought in. They take ownership. They're spreading the word that this program exists. And like I tell many people that I talk to on a regular basis, one business that having a trespass letter is strong, but having an entire block of businesses that have trespass letters strengthens communities and strengthens business areas. So seeing such a large increase in those enforcement letters has been great. We also oversee an intensive case management program. We were awarded in October 2024, we were awarded a grant through BSCC to provide intensive case management services to some of our most chronically affected individuals here in Bakersfield. Our case managers, we partner with Garden Pathways and Psychiatric Wellness Center, and these case managers are able to go out and build rapport with the people that we have a very difficult time with, sometimes trying to make that connection and trying to get them into services. So we're really working on across all different types of ways to combat this problem and improve our city. So this just allows us a proactive approach to educating the community on its operations and also all of the resources that we have. So like I mentioned, we've become very active in the community. We participate in numerous meetings, ranging from meetings with the Downtown Business Association, the Greater Bakersfield Chamber. We also meet regularly with our hotel motels to provide awareness on all of the programs that we have and the types of ways that we can help them when they experience issues related to homelessness. We work very closely with Kern Behavioral Health. There's actually a mental health professional that rides in each one of our on each one of our teams, and so they can provide quick mental health services. We meet regularly with the Valley Plaza Mall, so we can have a good idea of what's going on with their property there and help out in any way. And those meetings typically are held monthly. So since January of 2024 to December 31st, 2025, we've had approximately or almost 26,000 community responses with the City of Bakersfield teams I mentioned. That includes co-response, impact, police officers. It also includes flood ministries. How they assist us is if we get a call of an encampment, typically we'll send flood ministries out to try to offer services and get these individuals connected with people that can provide them true help and hopefully a better way of living. And we also partner very closely with Arson Park and the park rangers. We also do a lot of work with Valley Pressure Pros to help keep the streets clean if we're notified of anything that needs to be cleaned up. So we go to a variety of different calls. We triage all sorts of different things, but mainly we get calls of loitering and transient activity, a lot of encampment calls, trespassing, and then there's other calls that come in involving lewd conduct and trash as well. This map indicates the locations where we have sent our resources and our teams. And so you can see that we go, we're spread out. We have a lot currently in downtown, Old Town Kern. And part of our community vitality teams, we have the downtown footbeat officers. So they're able to provide that close care to our downtown businesses. But there's our services throughout Bakersfield. I'll turn it over to my partner, Jose Gonzalez from Code Enforcement.
Good afternoon, Council. So this slide here is to show, since the initial development of our code rapid response, how we've gradually throughout the years improved our ability to handle more encampments and more trash sites. One thing that I would like to focus, if you see on 2021, our trash sites that were going out there, and these trash sites are typically what you call abandoned encampments, shopping carts full of debris, anything homeless related that our guys respond to. And our ability when we initially started, due to lack of equipment, we were enabled to do a lot of work. So as you can see throughout the years that we started improving, and each year we are improving and responding to more encampments, more trash sites, and producing more tickets. So that's what these numbers are showing. So our goal for the following year is to continue increasing these numbers and also increasing the response time. If we go to slide 2, we talk about a little bit about the co-response model. I know we touched bases on it, but just to let you guys know what it's made up of a BPD impact officer, a code officer, and we assign 3 staff members to assist with cleanups. And these individuals work throughout 7 days a week, day and night, and they'll respond to encampments along with BPD. They will try to do these cleanups as soon as possible and do as much as they can with the limited resources that they have. We also partner up with the CCI team when we have major projects, as well as the water resources, solid waste, parks, and the arson when we go out and deal with river cleanups, railroads, basically very large encampments. So this collaboration amongst this team has been very positive in addressing not only the homeless issue, but the trash issue that we have in our community. So with that on, I'll pass it over to Parks to talk about the park rangers.
Hello, Mayor, Council members. My name is Keith Howell. I'm the Park Superintendent, and I'll be discussing with the Park Rangers and the collaboration we have with the Community Vitality and also the CCI teams. The slide shows right here is just with the Park Rangers. They maintain a regular presence throughout the parks. That's also in addition to our park maintenance crews that we touch these parks. The goal is to hit every park that we have daily with the Ranger patrols and also with our park maintenance staff. On to assisting as working with the CCI teams and the Community Vitality is addressing illegal dumping along the bike paths and also within the city parks. Large cleanups, large bulky item stuff, we will work with the CCI teams in there and to do the removal on it. They also go down the bike path and make sure that they patrol the bike path and make sure the litter is cleaned up. On top of that, with the Community Vitality, is that they respond to non-emergent homeless-related calls for service within the city parks. As you see the chart stating there, it's call for service from December to the past 2 years. Probably before that, we had no information or tracking. And so on this slide here, we had 5 hot spots in the parks. It would be Central Park, Low Park, MLK, Patriots, and Wilson. It shows that the PD initiated calls for service. That is the calls that we get dispatched from the PD, the Rangers. And then also the proactive patrols is the ones that are on the schedule for the Rangers to patrol the parks and make contact and making sure that, reducing the vandalism and have more eyes in parks for us to make sure they're safe and the quality of life. As you see right there, as you know, with the calls that's going in, our proactive patrols are, 1,000 and of course more. I know Patriots Park and stuff, and we evaluate these yearly, look at the hot spots and see what the trends are, and then we adapt our schedules and to be proactive. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk, just for the record, Councilmember Arias has joined us, 405.
How you guys doing? Deputy Chief Bryce Patterson with the Bakersfield Fire Department. It's an honor to be able to speak before you guys. I was told that they're saving the best for last, so hopefully I can lead up to that. So this slide provides a snapshot of the arson-related fire activity and how we're responding through prevention, enforcement, and collaborative efforts. In 2025, the Bakersfield Fire Department responded to approximately 43,000 calls. 8,800 of those calls were homeless-related, and about 3,700 were fires. We have a mechanism in place where our company officers on scene will determine if an arson investigator needs to come out, and they will respond out and do an investigation. Arson this year responded out to about 450 of those calls, and 238 incidents showed suspected homeless involvement. So of those 238 incidents, 89% were either structure fires or outside fires. These fires represent the highest risk to the life and safety and property. From an enforcement standpoint, our arson unit made 30 arrests related to arson. Of those arrests, 23 involve homeless individuals, representing approximately 77%. That statistic reinforces that our approach must address risk behaviors and hazardous conditions, not just response after a fire occurs. We worked closely with our public safety partners to activate, mitigate arson fire risk, and improve community safety. By collaborating directly with BPD's Impact Unit, as we said today, our code enforcement, and community vitality. Without that coordination, we would not be able to achieve our goal, which is real community impact through arson fire risk and mitigation. That work has been accomplished through coordinated, targeted efforts, including a focused approach to vacant structures, river bottom areas, and outside fires, which we deem any fire outside of a structure and not in a vehicle. We targeted these locations that hysterically generate repeat fires and calls for service. The objective is prevention, reducing repeat incidents, improving neighborhood safety, and limiting escalation to major fires or criminal events. So I conclude with these results show that target enforcement combined with strong coordination among our public partners is the most effective way to reduce arson fire risks. This work shows that by focusing on repeat behaviors, hazardous conditions, and high-risk locations, we are preventing fires before they occur, improving neighborhood safety, and delivering real, measurable community safety. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Not now.
All right.
We'll come back to that. Mr. Clegg, concluding comments before we go to the public?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Go. Just wanted to underscore a couple of things that back in 2023, when we were looking at really an imminent issue, we thought about, how do we get at this issue? Do we need to put different resources, meaning more funds toward it? Do we need to reorganize? Do we need to create a separate department? And instead of just sort of changing the bureaucracy or the org chart, we said, we can probably accomplish this in a better way if we just be more strategic and more intentional. And so creating a cross-functional team, as you can see, very strong collaboration across multiple city teams and departments. Major kudos to the police department for being a co-host. Thank you to also the city manager's office for a team who has worked really closely with the police department, but to really lead out this coalition of many different partners. But we chose to just work in a different way, and that cross-functional approach has been seen in some other instances in other cities to have really good results, and I would argue the same here. Of course, we still have big challenges, a long way to go in addressing the underlying causes, but as far as responding to the impacts around this issue, we've gotten much more effective. We've made really big impacts there. And in particular, again, I would thank Jamie Octerberg and Lieutenant Anderberg for finding ways to make this work by just working better and in closer collaboration and getting the work done, finding ways to get it done instead of waiting until we could sort of redesign. And so it is very reflective of our values that we've established as a team, and it really is a CARES approach in many different aspects to the way that we're doing this work.
Thank you, Mr. Clegg, and thank you to all the presenters and to all of our departments that are collaborating and working together. Is there anything else before we go to the public?
Thank you, Mayor. No.
Thank you. And at this time, we'll go to the public for comments. Madam City Clerk.
America, we have not received any speaker cards regarding this item.
Thank you. And before we go to council for comments, I'm just going to reach out to our media partners. Lieutenant Anderberg highlighted the trespass letter. It could be very helpful if you can all get that word out, because those can be very, very effective. So to all our media partners, if you can just let our public know that those are available and can really help us. Councilmember Bashir Tosh.
Oh, I have to take such a deep breath. I want to thank everybody for all of the effort that you put in to clean up and do your jobs well. Fantastic. Really, that's a lot of work, and I appreciate that. I have to take a deep breath because it's been almost a year. I remember sitting here and asking about our homeless crisis and issue, and if it was worse, better, or the same. And it was better. But, on the slide, we've got more encampments and trash places that we've cleaned up year over year, and it's increasing ever. The responses to these parks are right next to elementary schools. I'm thinking about Wilson Park, the park I grew up with when I went to Frank West, and these little kids coming out of school dealing with this stuff. And I'm enraged that we prioritize homeless degenerates over our children in our community. We've wasted millions of dollars on treating a problem that's not doing anything. All the while, our community is crumbling before us, and we're happy with the effort that we put here. We're letting our kids down. We're letting our community down by wasting another dollar on trying to clean up this mess when they need to be in jail. When I went to Lerdo facility today and I'm talking to them, they're saying 50 to 60% of the inmates they have are struggling with mental health. I thought to myself, it's drug-induced mental health crisis that they're dealing with. And the longer we let homeless people sit on the street and get abused, the closer they get to being completely a vegetable drug addict for the rest of their life, never being able to be restored competently back to being a functional member of society. As we continue to baby them along the course and not hold them accountable for the crimes, the theft, the trespassing, the destroying of our community, their brains get more and more destroyed by the 115-degree sun, the methamphetamine, whatever it is they're on, and it's destroying our community. Then they get to Lerdo, and there's nothing that can be done with them. There's a backlog. We need to prioritize holding these individuals that are terrorizing our community accountable. We don't need to waste any more money on coddling them and putting a Band-Aid on the situation. And I challenge my colleagues. You've heard me up here and you've heard my frustration, and it was spelled out to me that it's better, or it's maybe that, but we just saw that the amount of camps, they've gone up. It's increasing. And I love those pictures of the train tracks next to the auto mall that we go and you put so much work into cleaning it up, and it looks so amazing and it's nice, and then a week later they're back. And it's 10 times worse. I don't even want to call and take pictures and report it anymore. We have to prioritize actually getting in front of this. And I'm so happy that the next item is the jail bed task force. But as a council, we cannot continue to waste money on anything until this problem is dealt with the right way. The right way. This isn't just a downtown, East Bakersfield, West Bakersfield, South. This is affecting our entire dang community. And our kids, they're going to grow up seeing this, and they're going to get desensitized, and they're not going to care about making Bakersfield a better place anymore, because we don't even care. We want to clean up the trash day in and day out. We want to hurry the homeless people down the street, and we don't want to protect our kids, our business owners that are paying the salaries of half the people in this room. We want to just waste all of their time, our time. Enough is enough. We've got to take this serious, team. We've got to take it serious. I saw more camps coming to the city council meeting today than I ever have my entire life taking this route. It's a problem that affects all of us. And we've got to take it serious. When the agendas come up and there's items on here that it would be a waste of money, that it's not money we need to spend in light of what we've seen today, in light of what our community is going through, we have to take it. We got to fix it. The state isn't coming to help. They're shutting down the prisons. They have no more mental health facilities being opened up. And we're going to sit here and celebrate the fact that we're picking up thousands of pounds of trash while these degenerates are ruining our community. They're criminals. They're thieves. They're destroying our town. Our kids deserve better. Our business owners deserve better. Our families deserve better. I think about the moms that are walking, we care about them, walking their kids past these parks, dealing with all of this stuff they have to deal with, like it's a third world darn country. Like we're not paying millions of dollars in taxes to make sure that our city is up. So ask ourselves, I'm done. I don't want to grandstand on this, but man, I don't want to repeat myself for 4 years on this term that I got 3 years left. We've got to take it serious. We cannot waste money on one more frivolous thing that is not going to change the trajectory of our city from becoming a rundown cesspool where we just call homeless people anymore or thieves anymore, where people think they can just take advantage of our community and not be held accountable. We have to be the team that brings accountability back into our community so that our community knows that we are actually fighting for them. Our business owners know that we're fighting for them. The kids that we cheer on every time they come and do something for a council meeting, they were actually fighting. We got to put our time and our effort and our money where what we say. It's got to match our words. I have nothing left to say.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I can't follow that drama. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the passion, and I have the same passion, but I can't express it that way. I agree that we need the jail beds, and I started the jail bed task force, and we're making progress, but that does not mean that we've been wasting money doing this, because we've been doing what cities do. We clean up, we arrest people, we take them to jail, and typically, counties keep people in jail. But in Kern County, our jail releases them. And so we are moving towards a solution where the city then finds a way to keep them, hopefully in conjunction with the county. But to say that this is a waste of money, I would not agree with. We pick up 11 million pounds of trash per year. Constituents don't want to see trash, and just because the county's not going to keep people in jail doesn't mean we shouldn't continue to pick up trash. We shouldn't continue to clean up encampments. 4,000 encampments, we cleaned up 5,000, 6,000 trash sites, 8,800 homeless fires. We're not supposed to attack any of that because the county won't keep the people that we take to jail. Yes, we need to solve the jail problem. I'm on board and I'm with you 100%. But we also need to continue these other initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to comment just quickly on my colleagues, but then I want to get into the actual presentation. I will just say my constituents do not think that this is a waste of money. Actually, most of my constituents are very thankful that the city is responding to many of these issues, particularly since the urban core historically has received the brunt of this problem for decades. And so it has been well received to have many of these programs in place to help us revitalize downtown Bakersfield, help us get a handle on some of these neighborhoods that for too long have been neglected and disadvantaged. And so I get it. There are still major issues out there, but I think everyone has taken it seriously. I personally work day in and day out trying to find some solutions to the systemic issues, but as we wait, you know, I know it was mentioned, and it's often mentioned that these are just Band-Aids. Well, if you're bleeding, you need a Band-Aid to stop the hemorrhaging. I mean, and that's, you know, many of the neighborhoods that I represent, we need to have a response. So I don't believe that this is a waste. But I do believe, though, that the community deserves to know and to have a clear picture on how we're progressing in terms of outcomes. And I heard a lot in this presentation. I appreciate all the work from staff. I hear a lot about what we've done, the number of calls we've responded to, the number of encampments we've cleaned up. But what I'm really interested in and want to press staff on is to develop a framework so that we can actually analyze how we're actually reducing the problems related to homelessness, related to crime. Are we seeing reductions? And I know we have some data out there, but I think it's important for us when we have these conversations to bring that up front. I mean, anecdotally, I can tell you, in certain neighborhoods, it feels like we're making a lot of progress 1 month, and then a few weeks later, it feels like we've gone backwards. And it is very frustrating. And I know staff feels that frustration. So it's important for us to have these metrics. And I get it, for many agencies and departments, there's this inclination to, and this sort of mentality that they must sort of justify their existence, justify the work that they're doing, and they want to provide the output data, how many bags of trash we picked up. But what's, I think, more important and more compelling to my constituents is that we see those vacant lots on Niles and Niles and Monterey that have become eyesores and dumps that I complain about regularly, that we finally get a handle on those dumps. Because to Zach's point, Councilmember Bashir-Tasher's point, I have families who have to walk through those neighborhoods, and it does look like a third world country. It is unacceptable. And my heart goes out to those families, particularly those who come from modest means, and who feel already like the city has left them behind. They feel neglected, and only to see that those encampments or those dump sites, the vacant lots have become dump sites. It's hard to take, really hard to take. So I do share that passion that we have a lot of more work to do. And I want to kind of jump into some of the things that I think are some solutions. Number one, the dumpster referral program. I appreciate staff responding to my referral and getting on the dumpster program. I think it's been a success. I've heard a lot of great feedback. I would like to move forward, that we move on a city ordinance requiring all dumpsters, at least within the urban core, to require a locking mechanism so that we can secure those dumpsters and clean up those sites. Number two, we've installed trash receptacles throughout downtown and Old Town Kern. This has been well received within the downtown and Old Town Kern community. People have really appreciated them, but as of late, these receptacles really haven't been properly maintained. In fact, I just got a text from a business owner with trash overflowing. My question is, what's going on there? What's the issue regarding these trash receptacles, and how can we better maintain those in downtown?
Councilmember, I'm not sure that we have that answer ready for us today, but if James has some information on that, otherwise we'll follow up.
Yeah, Councilmember Gonzalez, great question. So we are transitioning from DSAs, the Downtown Street Ambassadors, to Rec and Park staff. So Downtown Ambassadors for the last, 5 years have been taking care of those receptacles. And when the budgeting and the finances came in and we're doing some more creative collaboration and trying to be proactive at realigning forces, Rec and Parks are now taking over those. So we're getting the maps. So some of those downtown receptacles may have been not on the map yet. I question you, is this one of the newer ones? One of the older ones?
18th and Q.
18th and Q. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just interested because I noticed that this isn't the first time. It's kind of a pattern. My third question is regarding the Downtown Street Ambassadors. I know that we've ended that program. I just kind of want to get a sense as to why, because we know that downtown, Old Town are the oldest areas. They have the worst infrastructure. They have many disadvantaged communities. They have the highest concentration of homeless individuals. If you take a look at the Community Vitality Response Location Map, it shows right here with data, it has the highest impacts in terms of community vitality responses. So it's the highest concentration areas. Why on earth would we get rid of the Downtown Street Ambassador program when we know that there's a higher need within those areas, and it's been proven to be successful?
So downtown street ambassadors, we can talk a little bit about it, and then Christian can jump in. But they were assigned to clean out the wire trash cans and receptacles, do some pressure washing here and there, and then we would also have CCI teams overlapping in the same areas. So we simply just took out the wire trash can part of it. The presence of the Open Door Network and their teams are still downtown. They're still taking care of all those alleys, the sidewalks, Old Town Kern, are still there. The only change that we made was the receptacle maintenance, which went to the rec and parks.
Yeah, thanks, James. And I would just add a couple other things. We actually did slightly change also the pressure washing service. We actually included an additional, team for Open Door Network to still do the pressure washing downtown. But there's just a slight change in the days and hours that they're available, just as an FYI. But that service is maintained there. I think bigger picture, I think it's important to acknowledge that the Downtown Street Ambassadors actually were in place before we ever had the Clean Cities teams. And so once we created the Clean Cities teams, it was additive, and we found that there started to be some duplication there. And then, we wrote out the contracts for both of those. And then as we looked at the full problem today versus, in the sort of incremental steps that we created it made more sense to create clear roles and responsibilities for one set of teams instead of two different sets of teams. And also, it is important to note that we were able to shift this away from public safety, vital services tax dollars. I would argue that it is worthy of those dollars, but we were fortunate to have solid waste dollars and the illegal dumping dollars that we can put towards this project, but also wanted to make sure that it was in a scope that was within our fiscal resources as we've made some of these adjustments this last year and this coming year, to make sure that we've got a balanced budget. And so, again, same service levels have been intended, but finding a different way that's more efficient to deploy those. And as we transition, a few hiccups, and we'll get those fixed.
I appreciate that. And then finally, it was mentioned by Lieutenant Anderberg that the no trespass letters was proving to be successful and very helpful. I'd like to make a referral tonight that we explore how we might make this a requirement for all business owners, perhaps when they pull a business permit to file a no trespass letter for their property. But I think we need to be more assertive when it comes to this particular piece, so that we can get a better handle on those properties when they're closed. And then finally, I'd like to ask for a status on the vacant structure ordinance and what are some of our outcomes related to that as well in a future meeting. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Coleman. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. This is all great stuff. I wanted to commend the staff on your collaboration. I think it's really admirable that you have all these departments, units working together to achieve some of these goals. I'm always surprised about how many, however you present it, pounds or tons or the volume. Then we talk about the volume of stuff that we pick up on the street and in the fields and the parks and all that kind of thing. And I'm just wondering if we're making any headway on penalizing people for illegal dumping. Are we doing anything to try to reduce that? And getting to, I think that kind of feeds to Councilmember Bashir Tash's point is, what are we doing about holding people accountable for these things that they're doing to our community? And I'm not going to ask you for an answer right now. I'm just asking generically the question, if we're getting any results in that area. But I am very concerned about the cost of all this. I see, department heads, and I see all these staff, and I'm like, at a time when we're trying to curtail the budget, we have a lot of resources dedicated to this task. And I just want to be sure that we're managing those costs. And maybe you can comment on that part.
Thanks, Councilmember Coleman. I'll comment on both pieces. I guess I could take the latter one first. It has been something really important to us, especially as we are looking at our budget sustainability and making some of the adjustments we need to, because revenues haven't kept up as much as our expenditures have. And so again, the Clean Cities effort was a way to make sure that we're as efficient as possible as the dollars that we do have. I think the good news is many of the individuals you see here today, this is one of their collaterals. They're doing a lot of other things, and so this is not taking up, I would argue, more inordinate amounts of time for folks. Although for some more than others, like Lieutenant Anderberg, spends a lot of time in this space, but others of the team, it's portions of the work that they do. But we're always looking at how can we be a little more efficient. We're looking for grants. We actually have some grants that are in this space that we didn't highlight today. We have a Prop 47 grant that's helping us try and address some of those high utilizers or chronic low-level offenders that we've talked about, in addition to our other efforts. And so we're always taking a hard look at that. And I think one of the advantages of the way that we've approached this as a cross-functional team is that it allows us to be pretty flexible and make changes and not be really entrenched there. To your other question, actually, about illegal dumping, it reminded me of something I didn't mention earlier, so thank you, is that, I think the two areas that we need to probably grow the most in this space, one is actually community outreach and community education. When you think about what a few hundred people can do to clean up the city, it pales in comparison to thousands of residents just taking good care of the city. Tens of thousands of residents making sure they don't throw out their trash. They pick up their street. They pick up trash at their park. Then when they go visit with their families, that can make a huge impact. And respectfully, I don't think that we've done as much as we can to try and create a culture of pride and ownership of our community and taking good care of it and cleaning up after ourselves as a community. And that's going to pay bigger dividends than any contracts that we create. In the meantime, we're not going to let things sit and be dirty, but we need to continue to push to create that culture. And then the second piece where we need to grow our efforts is around illegal dumping. So what we've done to date, we actually, from that same funding source plus from the county landfill plus some grant funds, we basically have 1.5 full-time equivalent employees that are dedicated to illegal dumping. But that's it. For our 2,000 employees and 400,000 people, we have 1.5 people fully dedicated to illegal dumping. I think one of the challenges we have is one of prioritization. When we look at police and law enforcement, it doesn't typically rise to the level of priority for them to address like some other topics. Even for code enforcement, addressing sort of our complaint-based process, and our rapid response teams are trying to get out and address those encampments that are there, present, building. We have not found a way to allocate more resources towards illegal dumping. It's also been a little bit frustrating because the patterns don't tend to be maybe quite as predictable as some of the other areas, like the hotspot areas we have for encampments and those people that are there present. We get those requests and we go out and we address those encampments. For illegal dumping, to sort of catch people in the act has proven to be very challenging, and there is actually some government code that limits our ability to prosecute individuals or fine individuals unless they're actually caught in the act. And so one of the things we're looking at is, what are other cities doing? How are they utilizing technology? If technology can still capture that someone is dumping, but that's, it wasn't witnessed in person by a police officer as an example of one of our limitations, do we need to actually ask for some legislation that might update our ability to still fine individuals even if we didn't catch them in person in the act? And so illegal dumping is an area that we've done some enforcement actions on some hotspot areas that we know often get used. We've tried to put up signs, put up cameras, put up fake cameras. We don't want too many people to know there's some, fake cameras out there, but as deterrence. And then also just putting up fencing to try and, protect these vacant lots, that encouraging owners to put up fencing on their vacant lots so they stop becoming sites where, people use. So we're doing some work around that, but I have to say it's an area where we haven't seen a ton of results, and we still haven't cracked that nut, as the metaphor goes.
Thank you. So you're putting up fencing, and then they're coming around and stealing the fencing?
Exactly.
I was shocked by how much of that material you were saying is getting.
And also how much it costs. One of those fences was $40,000 that they stole, and thankfully we caught them.
You mentioned that that a lot of these members are from different departments and that kind of thing. And are we doing a good job of tracking the amount of time they spend on this task from those departments, or not?
That's a good question, Councilmember. I don't actually have the answer top of mind, so that tells you, a little bit right there. Depending on which project or which role, we could partition that out pretty readily. Like, so our code enforcement folks, they're pretty much all dedicated to that. Certain law enforcement folks on the impact team, we track their hours and time really well. If this is a collateral assignment for other folks, I don't think we're asking them to track their hours on a project code that tells us precisely how many hours and how much cost goes to that. So we'll consider that and look into it.
Okay. Well, again, thank you very much for this presentation. I think it's a great presentation. I empathize with Councilmember Beshear-Tash and the frustration that we're continuing to spend money and cleaning up this mess, and we're not able to make headway on that. But I also agree with Councilmember Gonzalez in that we can't not do it. We have to be out there doing it, maybe even more aggressive. But my concern is managing costs. So thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the hard work that your people are doing.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Arias.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a couple comments and really manage the public's expectations as it relates to the next item that we're going to be hearing around the jail bed task force. I, for one, agree that I think this is a really important next step for our city to continue to make progress on homelessness. And I'm looking forward to the presentation. I'm looking forward to the next steps that we need to work through in order to make that a real possibility, so that we can hold many of these folks who are committing these small repeat misdemeanor crimes accountable, and show that there is accountability in the city of Bakersfield. I think that that's an important thing that I don't want to get lost. But at the same time, I also want to recognize the fact that this issue is incredibly complex. Cities across the country are grappling with homelessness. And if there was a solution and someone had a solution, I think we would sit down and listen to them and try to make it work for the city of Bakersfield. But the reality is there is no one-size solution. And certainly, one thing that I want to make clear is that some homeless may commit criminal acts, but not all homeless individuals are criminals. And so I think it's important to understand that there are so many different layers and levels of complexity to this issue. I want to thank Councilmember Gonzalez. Actually, excuse me, I think it might have been Councilmember Weir who had started the ad hoc committee on homelessness several years ago. But it's allowed for us as a council and as a team to really better understand just how challenging this problem is. We understand that it's growing particularly as we continue to grow as a city, and I'll agree that while we do need to make progress on the jail bed task force, we can't lose sight of all of the other work that we must do as a city. And so I just want to commend staff for the presentation. I apologize for being a little late to the party, but just want to say thank you to all the different departments, the levels of coordination from fire to our rapid response teams, our Clean City teams, our community-based partners, and everybody out there doing the great work. And also to our city attorney as well for stepping up in particular circumstances and lending their support as it relates to the legal components of removing encampments and helping us navigate the laws as they continue to change on a regular basis around homelessness and how we can remove encampments and get them the help and the services that they need. One point of clarification that I wanted to ask the city manager is that when we initially started talking about community vitality, part of the discussion, as I recall, was that there was not going to be any added payroll costs to creating this initiative. Is that still true today?
That is still true today. We really used existing resources and just moved some positions around to create really a small core project team. We do have some of our youth jobs fellows that are supporting the call center. But those are monies that are coming through state funding. And I'm trying to think if we've made any other incremental adds, but I don't think so. It was really just a reallocation of existing resources to work differently.
Fantastic. I appreciate that clarity, and I just think it goes to show that, City Hall, City Manager's Office is doing what they can to be able to utilize existing staff, existing resources, even during a challenging fiscal year. We continue to meet the moment. We certainly can do more and do better. There will continue to be homeless encampments and things that we need to clean up throughout the city. I'm particularly excited about the ability for us to be able to better respond and hold accountable a lot of those folks who are dumping illegally throughout the city, and just want to lift up one particular challenging part of Ward 1, just next to Brook Street off of Cottonwood Road or MLK Boulevard. I won't go into detail, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I'm not asking to create another task force. However, I think we need to put our heads together and figure out how we can address that issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Arias. Vice Mayor, for receive and file.
Thank you, Mayor. Motion to receive and file.
You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is unanimously approved.
Thank you. City Clerk, next item, please.
Reports item 3B, Jail Bed Task Force update.
Thank you. City Manager Clegg.
Mayor and Council, I'll move quickly into this item, looking at the clock, and I'm sure there'll be some conversation and follow-up on this one as well. We've been meeting since September on the Jail Bed Task Force, and I've actually had lots of conversations, and so wanted to bring the full council just more up to speed on those conversations before we get too far down the road. Just want to reflect that, of course, this is connected to one of our city council priority goals around safety and resilience. And I think it's important to know that we have enhanced our ability to enforce, and that means police, that means law enforcement. But unfortunately, there's a persistent lack of accountability in the criminal justice system for particularly those chronic low-level offenders. That referral came at the September 10th meeting. Just really quickly, we'll highlight that the task force membership has broad representation from community stakeholders, institutions, local business owners, and we've had good attendance at those 3 meetings that you'll see listed there. Also, we've had other meetings outside of the task force meetings with the sheriff, the presiding judge, the district attorney, public defender, probation, Taft Police, Kern Health Systems, Kern Behavioral Health, Kern Medical, and we've taken a tour of the Taft Jail and the county jail. So we are in earnest in these conversations. We know that there have been major state legislative and regulatory changes. The task force has sort of grappled with, what really are the challenges and potential opportunities that are there. This is not an easy one, as has been noted, and we've been working, hard to do what we can, but in a challenging, regulatory environment. Funding has been reduced. That we don't have enough jail beds. We don't have enough treatment beds for those that have mental health and substance use. In fact, just as a quick comparison, we'll get into some of this later, but we have, 1,700 jail beds for Kern County, let alone some of the other city community correction facilities, and we have less than 100 beds, all included for our acute mental health and substance use needs. We have challenges around recidivism and repeat offenders. Many folks don't, they might get a cite and release, they don't appear in court. Also, cite and release means that those individuals remain in our communities or remain around institutions where they're getting services like Kern Medical. There are not enough qualified employees to take some of these treatment or criminal justice jobs. And there's also been changes in liability. Liability is much higher in this space than it has been historically. The Kern County Jail does have a federal jail bed cap. People are staying much longer in county jail than they used to. Typically, folks would be there for a short time frame and go out to state prisons or state mental hospitals or other areas. And just overall, our systems have become much more complex with the regulatory sort of layers that have been laid atop them. So, tough area that we're working in particular, since it's not our authority or jurisdiction either. But we know we have to do something about it. Also, it's important for the council to know that there have been several conversations for some time about different ways to try and address this. And so, at the county, jail, there's been conversations for a number of years about how can we hire more staff and how can they hire staff quicker. And they've actually made progress in those areas. So there is work in that space, but we still have the challenge that we have. As I noted, the detention deputies has been a big challenge for the county to be able to hire detention deputies, but they've raised their pay scales, they've had double academies, and they're making progress on the detention deputies, but they still have 40 vacancies. The booking process was moved to Laredo. There were some pluses and minuses, I suppose, with that, but overall, it was a newer facility that they were able to design a more efficient process, and they continue to work on trying to move people more quickly through the booking process. And we are thankful for some beds that have been set aside for us for those chronic low-level offenders. We have the ability to work with about 10 beds. They're increasing that up to about 15 right now, and that's not going to solve the problem, but we're thankful for that. We also have seen an increase in substance use treatment beds. The city went out on a limb and went after a tens of millions of dollars grant to create a new sober living environment. Kern County Behavioral Health and Recovery Services is going to operate that site. But that was one of those examples where we said we just can't sit and wait for those projects to come and be built. We went and applied for a grant that cities typically wouldn't get, and got more than $20 million to create 65 more beds. When you basically double the number of your in facility, closed facility treatment beds for sober living, that's a big jump in our capacity. Unfortunately, it's still not quite enough. Also, there have been major changes at the state level in Medi-Cal and our managed care plans and the CalAIM administrators. I don't think we've seen all the dividends of that yet. I'm not saying it was, right or wrong move, but just, it is our new ecosystem that has been built. And the folks here locally are getting up to speed for how those managed care plans and CalAIM dollars can both benefit individuals just on a regular basis and on a prevention basis, but also those who need intervention because they have committed offenses and are doing jail time. And then Kern Medical has had planning in place for what they call a psychiatric emergency department for some time. The city actually used some of our dollars to help pay for a feasibility study. Those are ARPA dollars to help pay for a feasibility study to help them get really grant ready or sort of funding ask ready for a new department that would include an emergency room and several other types of detox beds and treatment beds because we need more of that. Also, I'm not claiming major success here, but we've also taken into account Care Court, SB 43, and now Prop 36 is probably the tool that's giving us the most teeth to make some progress. All of these are things that have been in play, but we're trying to build off of those going forward. We've been looking at what are some of the potential solutions that are going to pay bigger dividends. Diversion programs. We know that many individuals, the best place for them is not to be in jail, it's to be in treatment, but we need to create some accountability. We have programs available. Folks don't volunteer for those programs. How do we help them be guided into those programs to get the treatment that they need? We've looked at the number of state prisoners and mental hospital patients that are at Laredo Jail that should be in those other facilities. How do we get more of those folks out to those facilities? Continuing to make more process improvements, get more efficient, and all of the processes that are at the current institutions. We'll talk more about this, but having a minimum facility where we can address accountability for chronic offenders. We've looked at whether our city could have a community corrections facility, whether we could contract with another community corrections facility, as well as city funding to support expediting county solutions as well. So the task force has been looking at, you can see there's a very complicated framework or ecosystem. And so we've tried to create a framework to break it up into buckets. And so the buckets that we're looking at are the ones that are on your screen. We want to look at behavioral health and wraparound services collectively, the booking process itself, medical clearances, detention, sentencing, a minimum facility separately because it's one of the biggest potential solutions beyond just detention in general. And then also we have to understand some of the issues around liability and ultimately, what are some of the costs and how can we fund this? So in our meetings of the task force, we've been cranking away at a couple of these different buckets of the framework in each of our meetings. So I know I'm going to, keep going rapid fire on some of these. The intent is to just kind of, again, bring council up to speed on some of the big topics that we're discussing in each of those buckets. I've already noted this, so I won't belabor it. There's a critical need for these treatment services because a majority of our chronic low-level offenders, when I say chronic, that's important because it's an ongoing issue. It's not somebody who just made a little mistake once, twice. These are folks that have 9, 10, 12 offenses. That's a clear pattern, and a vast majority of them have significant behavioral health and substance use treatment needs. Again, even in this space, not just detention deputies, but there's a challenge of our providers having enough qualified professionals to provide those services. I do think that there's a lot of opportunity for better coordination amongst the different service providers. It's a very complicated system, that as well. And I think if we work better together in different ways, we can get more for the same dollars that are currently out there available today. We need those diversion programs, and we need more treatment in residential beds. The one that I referenced, the 65 new beds, we're calling that Calm Horizons, and that's a project that the city got that grant funding for. In addition, the Kern County Behavioral Health and Recovery Services is working to expand their psychiatric evaluation center, their PEC, Mary Kay Shell. They want to try and get another 5 to 10 beds there, and they're creating a youth center that would help the youth and the adults be evaluated in 2 separate facilities. That's good progress. When you go from 14 beds to maybe 25 to 30 beds, it's progress, but that's not a big number. That's a challenge we're still facing. We're also trying to create spaces within our courts and our jails where the providers can have office space or working space. In the courts today, that does not exist. In the jails, it does to a degree. But many of these individuals, for example, in the courts, they may get handed a piece of paper and say, within 48 hours, you need to report to this location. They never report. And we're losing, folks, they're slipping through the cracks. If we can have on-site clinicians, meet with them, start building some rapport, make it clear that, the access to resources and incentives that they could have, we may do better in keeping people in treatment case management. But it's important to note that, and this was something we just learned last week, the county behavioral health does not have a legislative obligation to provide mental health services to county prisoners or city prisoners. And so there's no direct funding that's provided for that resource. We have many individuals re-entering the community, and sometimes they're re-entering very quickly, but there's opportunities to improve services, and connections at re-entry again, so we don't lose folks. Even if you've done well for, let's say, 20 days, 30 days, and you come out, but you're in a very different environment, if you don't have help around you in that first 48 hours, it's very easy to go back to some of the same patterns. In the booking process, again, it was moved to Laredo. Fortunately, there's been some work to streamline, but unfortunately, still long wait times. Our average is, typically 2 hours. They can move individuals through there in 15 to 30 minutes, but if there's already people in queue, it backs us up, and so we have 2-3 hour waits regularly with our officers who are going to book individuals, and sometimes even longer than that. We're working on our end to try and create some opportunities to, for lack of a better word, sort of batch individuals who are in the care of a police officer but dropped off to that officer. They're at Laredo booking, so then our officers can get back on the streets. But if, sometimes if an officer is, 2-3 hours at Laredo, that means they're not on patrol, they're not taking other calls. Medical clearances can often take a long time as well, and we understand the liabilities. You want to make sure people are fit to be in an environment like that and get the care that they need, but it's also an area where it's slowing down bookings significantly, and trying to find ways, working with Kern Medical and the sheriffs, if we can just be good thought partners, as well as on our end, anything that we can do, if PD bringing folks in to help those medical clearances move quicker. And I already meant this BPD staffing adjustments means that we're contemplating actually, having staff at Laredo at a minimum at peak times, maybe at all times, so that they can sort of hold individuals while they're in queue, instead of having 5 or 6 officers each waiting, have 2 officers waiting and everybody else get back on the streets. I've already spoken about medical clearances a couple of times, just a few other things to add. Many of those chronic offenders have not been taking good care of themselves, and so their medical needs are significant. That's a challenge that we're facing, and also, theoretically, if the city takes on some of those individuals in our responsibility, either through a city or a contract community corrections facility, we would be responsible for those medical needs. Also, many individuals have co-occurring medical and behavioral health treatment needs, and so finding ways to synergize those, two treatment services is another ongoing conversation. I noted this a little bit earlier. Kern Medical has many individuals who go there for medical clearance, but then there's no longer capacity at the jail. They don't. They're not going to be held there. They're released with a citation, but often they're released right there on site, and so it's a big challenge for Kern Medical. We're working with them on some alternatives, so there's not that concentration of individuals who have recently been cited and released. And thank you to Kern Medical. We identified in our first meeting with them 2 low-hanging fruit items where we could bring together the individuals that are waiting for medical clearances to be kind of in adjacent spaces within their emergency room, so that it could help their staff with safety and efficiencies. And also for our officers, we might have had, similar to the booking, you could have 5 different police officers all in different spots of the emergency room waiting with that individual. Instead, now we can have 1 or 2 officers waiting with several individuals in that one waiting, holding area, and get our other officers back out on the streets. And we were able to, between us and Career Medical, just implement that immediately, and we didn't have to wait. As detention goes, I'm not going to belabor this one too much as a broad category. We just know, again, that we have limited jail beds. That's a question of funding, staffing, and regulatory challenges. They make difficult release decisions every day. We learned this morning that they book about 80 individuals, plus or minus, every day across the county, and they're having to release people nearly every day, and they have to make those decisions on a risk basis. 80% of low-level offenders are released that we pick up from the impact team are released within 24 hours. That's a troubling number for us. And we need additional time to make sure they can get treatment, sentencing, and diversion to the places that are going to best serve them. From a sentencing standpoint, it's worth noting we've worked with the public defender, district attorney, and presiding judge. There is support for diversion programs. We have to still figure out some of the logistics, but as a concept, there's good support. There's been some interest in taking a look at bail schedules and whether that can have positive impacts on our challenges. And then for those that are familiar with the former drug court program, they would, on a weekly basis, bring folks in a streamlined format. We want to try and do that same thing for some of our chronic low-level offenders to keep folks moving through that process pretty quickly. And this is an important point for council to know that misdemeanants can be booked and sentenced to community correction facilities. They do not have to always go through Lerdo. They could go through just city community correction facility. A minimum facility means, again, a space where we can address some of the low-level offenders. There's that lack of accountability. Again, we need that. We don't think people are going to go into the diversion for treatment without that accountability. One of the challenges, there may be limitations for those that need significant behavioral health treatment at a minimum facility. Lerdo can provide certain mental health support that a lower minimum facility cannot. Some of the options that we've looked at for a minimum facility, the county has a space at Lerdo County Jail called Max Mead. It has pods of 30 beds. That there's actually 8 different pods, and they could scale up to hold more folks there. There's also the mega barracks that are 2 60-person dormitories, and then the Taft Jail has 2 60-person dormitories as well. From a liability standpoint, it is just important to know that folks who are booked into county jail are county liability. If they are booked and held in a community correction facility, they would be city liability. We would own that liability. We're working to address, indemnification if the folks are transferred from county jail to a community correction facility. That's something that we think has a lot of merit to addressing some of the chronic low-level issues, but we need to work out that indemnification. This last slide is just some broad numbers that the minimum facility in Lerdo is not currently open. To reopen, they're estimating about $2 million capital dollars, and operating costs for 120 beds would be around $11 million. Taft Community Correction Facility probably needs about $250,000 to $500,000 to retrofit the 2 dorms that haven't been used in some time. But other portions of their jail have been in use, ongoing use. But it's about $7.5 million for about 120 beds at Taft Community Correction Facility. However, there would be additional transportation, medical, and probably insurance expenses that we would need to budget for outside of that Taft contract for services. So here's where I will just kind of indicate and not try to speak too much for the 2 council members that are on the task force. But there's been significant conversation about the city seriously considering a a memorandum of understanding with Taft for additional beds. That initiated out of some of the early conversations that it didn't feel like it was really an option for the county to fund their expansion back to either Max Mead or the mega barracks in the short run. A need to do something sooner than later to address these challenging quality of life issues for our community members. And also just our ability to, frankly, dictate some of the conditions and outcomes as the funder, to a contract agency like Taft, whereas we're really reliant upon the county in decision making related to their facilities. I think you can see some of those budget comparisons. Of course, those are big costs either way, but some are more expensive than others. But also we were trying to dig a little bit deeper into data, because some of those individuals, who are some of our most chronic offenders, they may have acute behavioral health needs. And so how many of those would need to go to a separate facility? How many could go to a community correction facility? But also there are many individuals who may be low or moderate, or who may be chronic retail theft individuals, not necessarily those who have some of those other acute medical or behavioral health needs. And so these are some of the options that we're looking at. As far as how could the city fund this, I'm not assuming that we're adding $7.5 million in next year's budget of new monies. Some of what we need to do is reprioritize, just like I mentioned on some other topics. If we're spending millions of dollars of staff time cleaning up after and moving along some of the same individuals, and those individuals are able to help get them into treatment or get them into accountability in jail, then we can reduce some of those other staff costs for those ongoing cleanups. So I would propose, if council wants to move forward with this, reallocating some of our dollars within our existing resources and some of the teams that you saw today. We also have set aside some funds in prior budgets actually for this purpose, and it hasn't come to fruition yet, and so those funds are still available. And then because we're doing a preventative service, and there's many individuals that are paying big dollars to care for those individuals, some of those are hospitals, some of it's behavioral health, and some of it's the county themselves, we're going to approach those other entities and say, if we're able to provide this service, it's going to save you dollars. Can we see some of those savings put back into this program to help fund this? And so I do think it's realistic on a pilot basis. Again, 120 beds for the 7.5. If the city moved forward with, let's say, half that number as a pilot, 60 beds, I think that we could reallocate enough of our own resources and get other partners to participate to do a pilot. Again, whether that's, frankly, even as a partner with the county or as a partner with Taft. And so we're not bringing a decision to council today. The point was to really get you up to speed in all the work that we've been doing. And really what I wanted council to be aware of is some of these big challenges, the costs, the liabilities, what are some of the options, and then really a go-ahead to say continue working with county, continue working with Taft to find the best solution and bring that back to council is really the desired intent for bringing this update to you today.
Thank you, Mr. Clegg. We'll now go to the public for comment. Madam City Clerk, do we have any requests?
Mayor Go, we've not received any speaker cards regarding this item.
Thank you. Councilmember Bashir Tosh.
I'm happy with the progress that we've made. We definitely need to reallocate resources that we've been spending on cleaning up this. And the thing that gives me hope in this entire situation, or what we're trying to accomplish here, is it's going to be something different and something new. You can't expect someone that's tweaking out of their mind in a tent on the street to accept your warm handoff into a treatment program. They could care less about what you're trying to sell them. So grabbing individuals and getting to the point where they can have some sobriety for a minute, be forced to be held accountable for their actions in terrorizing their community, and then presenting them with an option with all of the wonderful partners that we do have in our community, all the different resources. This is how you win both worlds. I mean, for the last decade, we've seen what soft on crime looks like, and let's empower all of these organizations to just make the mistake even bigger in our communities as we continue to see it terrorize and crime gets worse and there's zero accountability. And then we know what locking everybody looks like and how that can really hurt communities too, with people spending their entire lives when they just needed some help. This is an opportunity for us to do something different. This is an opportunity for us to actually present real results to our community, to give our tax-paying constituents what they deserve, which is public safety. And we're also looking out for people that maybe need some help. Maybe they're stuck in just a lifestyle of addiction and they need to be locked up for a minute to get sober for the first time in 10 years so that we can get them in a program so that they can actually have an opportunity to be better. But continuing to clean up the mess is not going to fix it. And I didn't mean that what we're doing is a waste. I meant that the stuff that we see on our agenda at these council meetings, and we all know that there are items that are a waste when we're trying to be fiscally responsible. This is going to be an expensive thing, and we just need to make sure that we're good stewards of our time and our resources. So I appreciate the effort. I look forward to getting more data that we've talked about. And, getting this thing some real momentum, some real teeth, and helping our community out. So,
Thank you, Councilmember Ashur-Tosh. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. And I really appreciate staff's focus on this for the last 3 or 4 months. We've, I think, made a lot of progress in education to the city. As Councilmember Bashir-Tosh mentioned, it's a new direction, and it's something new for the city and the county and all the health providers. There is an obvious lack of accountability, and it has been going on for quite some time. Back before City Manager Clay came, City Manager Candy, we were in conversations with the county at that time, and we've seen the same problem. And those conversations have continued for multiple years now without any real movement. And in my mind, it is time for movement, time for decisions. So I think I will make a motion that staff continue these conversations and to move forward with a memorandum of understanding with Taft on, and I think maybe there's two in our conversations with them. There's the ongoing, once we are up to speed and have prisoners, and I think that takes longer to put together. It's more complicated, but I think just helping them get the facility ready. And so maybe we start with a contract with, we're going to help you get the facility ready while we're working on a contract to house the inmates. I've had conversations with different county supervisors, and I think they understand that it is their obligation. And I think that, there's opportunities for them to help fund, like you say, a pilot program and for something that helps the county and helps us move forward. So I would also direct staff to continue discussing with the county and the health providers and stuff. So we have no choice but to do something different to move forward. And so I will make that motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Just thank you to staff for all the work, and I'm cautiously optimistic that we're in a good direction. But I want to provide some context here, right? We've been working at this for 7-8 years in terms of providing additional support to make our community safer through additional law enforcement. We first focused on getting that 100 additional police officers, and we made it. And we had a full court press to get that net gain of 100 police officers. And as we've done that, we've recognized this shortfall with the lack of jail beds. And so I was just looking at my phone. It was July 26, 2023, when Councilmember Smith and I met with Sheriff Youngblood in his office for the first time to initiate these conversations. And I think that's important for the community to realize that this isn't some new idea that just came about this last couple months. Like we've identified this need for several years, but it's been a struggle. And it's important for us to continue to push on this. This is really important. It's part of our public safety plan. And I am hopeful that we will get a resolution sooner than later. So thank you so much. I concur with my colleagues. We need to find the dollars to make this happen. And it's part of a whole, complete, comprehensive approach to public safety in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Arias.
Thank you, Mayor. I too am cautiously optimistic about this moving forward. But I just wanted to commend my colleagues, Councilmember Smith and Councilmember Bashir Tash, for spearheading the task force. I'm grateful for the speed at which it's moving. The initial referral was made on September 10th of 2025, and here we are just a couple months later with some significant progress and some real options. And just want to say thank you for the motion. I absolutely support that direction from Councilmember Smith. But I also, too, want to put this effort into context and be particularly sensitive to the fact that there are horrific interactions that are taking place across the country between ICE and Border Patrol agents and local communities. And I, for one, as a council member, have been reached out to by several members of the community who are concerned that this particular effort is in some way, shape, or form an effort to create some form of ICE detention facility. And so I just wanted to put that to bed today, here and now, and confirm that that is, in fact, the case.
Or, in fact, not the case.
Thank you. In fact, not the case.
Yeah, thank you, council member. That is not the case. And in fact, as we toured, Laredo today, folks could argue the points of state law, but under state law, our law enforcement and county jail, Taft Jail, they are not even allowed to ask of someone's documentation status as part of their interactions with law enforcement in the state of California.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. And I think the second thing that I wanted to clarify for the benefit of the public is, I know we're having these conversations all the time, but for the benefit of the public, I think it'd be helpful to define what or who is a chronic low-level offender that we are really looking to provide support to.
Thank you, council member. And I think we can, I heard that as both a now and a follow-up, suggestion. But really quickly, let me be clear too. Some of the state policy efforts to reduce mass incarceration, to reduce individuals becoming system involved and then being, disadvantaged for the rest of their lives. I think that those were well intentioned. We're not looking for somebody who, a young person who makes one mistake. It doesn't make sense for them to have the, a lack of opportunity for the rest of their lives. That's not what this is about. But when you have an individual who has committed the same offense 12 times, 15 times, that's clearly a pattern. That's not a whoops any longer. We also have individuals who have been arrested more than 15 times over a 2-year period, a 1-year period, a 2-year period, and it's just a chronic pattern. That's why we say chronic. We say low level because, again, I think our and I failed to mention this earlier, our accountability system, for the most part, is working for individuals who have committed serious offenses. They get time, they get their day in court. The process plays out for them. But for these lower level offenses where there's not really the capacity to, even in the courts and the jails to hold those individuals, that they're when we say low level, it's misdemeanors for the most part. These are misdemeanors that, though significantly impact quality of life of our community members. It's when somebody's house gets broken into. It's when a business's window gets smashed. It's when your air conditioning gets stripped of copper wire for the nth time. It's when a vehicle gets, stolen again. That's very frustrating for our community members. And unfortunately, many individuals will go and they'll steal a car and be arrested, and they'll go and steal a car the next day because they've already been released. That doesn't make, I don't think that anybody intended for that to be what the system outcomes were. And so when we say chronic low-level offenders, it's creating accountability for misdemeanor crimes that are repeat chronic offenses, that there's a clear pattern that somebody knows they can get away with it, or someone who may not have the mental capacity to make better choices on their own behalf, but they continue to repeat over and over again. Something needs to change, and that's what this is intended to address.
Thank you so much. And just the one statistic that really sticks out from your presentation is that 80% of low-level offenders are released within 24 hours. That is alarming. I think it's consistent with what our community feels, and I appreciate the fact that staff is taking this so seriously, and I'm looking forward to a potential solution here soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Arias. Vice Mayor.
Are we receiving and filing, but we do have a motion?
We have a motion on the table.
Okay, got it. Well, I just wanted to join my colleagues in thanking Councilmember Bashir Tosh and Councilmember Smith for the efforts. It's a challenging issue that affects community safety on so many different levels, and I know while we are discussing and seeking solutions for the enforcement end of it, my hope is that we can also be creative and additionally resourceful in the treatment end of it that we see a huge gap in. I was just chatting with a couple of my former students who are now nurses that work at Lerdo through Kern Medical and through Kern Health Systems. I'm hopeful that maybe there are ways in which the city can support efforts to either employ social workers that can be specifically linked to these efforts that we are joining in furthering how we keep our community safe for the longevity. And that would be my one recommendation in addition to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The challenges before us are extremely complex. Mr. Clegg, you mentioned substance abuse and the challenge there. 110 individuals are diagnosed every month with a severe substance use issue that requires residential treatment. And just our ability to add more, and only 109 beds were available in the summer when I had inquired about this. So our ability to add more helps in this extremely complex challenge. We need to address both the mental health and the substance abuse issues as we move forward with these solutions. Thank you to all. You have a motion by Councilmember Smith. Would you please cast your votes?
Motion is approved with Councilmember Weir absent.
Thank you. And now that is the end of this session. We're just completing our 3:30 meeting. Sorry to keep so many of you waiting. Council is going to need to take just a little break. It's 5:23. If you can take 10 minutes. I know that we're going to need a little health break. Thank you for your patience out there, and then we'll resume at 5:33. And with that, we stand adjourned at 5:23.